Hi guys, so just back from a swim, and while I'm in the rugby mood, this is a video that I've really wanted to make. Just couldn't find a good time to do it, but I feel like having released the Six Nations stats feels like a perfect time to update my Lions team. And there will be a few people going in and dropping out. Um, not get, well, I've got the whiteboard out, so maybe perhaps I will use the infamous whiteboard. We shall see. Yeah, I'll find out now. Might add it to the team sheet just so you have it, and then I'll show you at the end. So as we go, I'll start updating the board. Then, what we're gonna do is have a look at what I bricked before versus how I've changed it, and there have been a lot of changes. So I'm just talking through the old one. I'm gonna just get this bad boy out, and I'm gonna make a few changes on the whiteboard, and I'm gonna show you afterwards. We're gonna have a look through my old one. I'm just talking through a few changes that I've made. So yeah, share my screen there. So if you see it there, right? Um, we have Andrew Porter, Dewi Lake, Xander Fagerson in the front row. Then Tyg Byrne, Joe McCarthy in the second row. Ben Earl at six. Blindside flanker. Caelan Doris at number eight. Josh Van der Fleer at open side flanker, number seven. Jamison Gibson Park as scrum half at nine. We have a 10 fly half, Marcus Smith. 11 on the left wing, Duhan van der Merwe. 12, we have Hugh Jones at first centre. We know he's at 13, but he can also play as first centre, and that's kind of what I was thinking. 13, we have second centre, Gary Ringrose, their first 5'8", as, sorry, no, first 5'8" is 12 in the Southern Hemisphere, if I'm right. And then 13 is just called centre. Any Southern Hemisphere rugby fans, let me know. Much appreciated. On the right wing, Darcy Graham, and then a fullback, Hugo Keenan. And then on the bench, replacement hooker, Ronan Kelleher, replacement loosehead, Pierre Schumann, replacement tight head, Will Stewart, replacement second row, George Martin, replacement flanker, back rower, Rory Darge, replacement scrum half, Ben White, replacement fly half, Finn Russell, and then replacement utility back to cover wing, fullback, centre, wherever, Blair Kinghorn. So there's a few positions that are going to stay exactly the same, and then a few are changing. And there's good reason for that as well. So like looking at this team, just talking you through it, Dewi Lake hasn't played and was injured for the whole Six Nations bar the last two matches when he came back. So I haven't really seen enough from him to warrant his place in the Lions team. And a lot of this is based on the Six Nations. It's also based on who I think will go, but also a bit of reasoning myself. So I'm kind of thinking, well, who would fit the team the best? You know what I mean? And that's what I'm kind of going for. Since second row, Joe McCarthy has been very disappointed, and Ireland have in general. So was Tyg Byrne. Tyg Byrne had a really good first two games, and then it was kind of hit and miss in the last three. You know, such a talent, and we expect so much from him. And Ireland didn't fire, so it's not his fault. He still had moments of brilliance like he always does. And because we hold him to such a high standard, an average game for him is kind of unacceptable from us. But let's not forget how great a player he is. So still a really good player for Ireland, and we need him in the team. But Joe McCarthy has really disappointed me. Didn't look fit, came back late, so he was injured. He made sloppy mistakes, gave away penalties, and we know he has that in his game, but hasn't really done enough for me to deserve keeping that spot. And then Josh Van der Fleer has really disappointed me. Like I know he was up there in the top five tackle stats, but knowing how good he is, we expect a lot better from him, and I think rightly so. He is a phenomenal player, really good player, and we rely on him heavily. But from the autumn series, I would have said he's definitely in the team. Um, Same with Joe McCarthy. And now I'm not so sure. Dewi Lake as well, an impressive player, really good at getting the jackal, really good ball carrying, but hasn't played enough. Simply hasn't played enough, and there have been other players that have stepped up. Um, and then Ben Earl has missed far too many tackles. Doesn't look fit sometimes as well. He goes down an awful lot. Now he's a machine when it comes to carrying the ball and getting jackal turnovers, but his defense is very poor. He was top of the, he was in the highest top five missed tackles, and that was after round three. That's before Ireland played France, because I remember they were saying Sam Prendergast had missed 15 tackles after the England, Scotland, and Welsh game. So after round three, going into round four, and then Ben Earl had missed 10 tackles, and he doesn't make that many either. So you think to yourself, as a back rower, you've got to do a lot better. It's all well and good carrying and having all the glory moments, but he misses far too many tackles. And I need a back row, if I'm picking a back row, that can tackle and do the hard work. And I feel like Ben Earl can sometimes get caught up in the glory and the jeering and celebrating and all that, but doesn't do the fundamentals of a back row well, you know. He's still in my team, FYI, but he drops to the bench. Joe McCarthy and Dewi Lake have dropped out of my team. That could change again, but it's unlikely to, unless they play really well. I'm basing it off people who have actually played in the Six Nations and played well, and also some previous form. Um, Tide Furlong only came back for one game. It doesn't look like he's fully fit. We need to see him play for Leinster. There's some lads who can still play themselves into the team, but I'm basing it off the Six Nations a lot. For me, Ben Earl makes far too many missed tackles. Makes far too many missed tackles, but also drops the ball off kickoffs. I've seen that quite a bit. There's a bit of an error in his game. He's not as flawless as people would like to make out. Still a very good player, but not a starter for me. And Van der Fleer has been very quiet in the Six Nations. Been very disappointed with him. Such a good player, but disappointed. Gibson Park, I wouldn't blame. He simply hasn't had the go forward, and his game hasn't been allowed to really flourish, but he's still such a smashing player and definitely would be the starting scrum half for sure. No doubt about it. Still a great player, and we need him in Ireland, and I'm sure he'll start in the line store. This man, Marcus Smith, has really disappointed me, and I was singing his praises, saying he's definitely going to be starting 10, deserves it over Finn Russell, who has also been very poor. Fly halves have been shocking, really bad. They've been terrible. Finn Russell has not lived up to the hype once again. He might do it for Bath, but he doesn't do it for Scotland, and misses far too many kicks. But he cost Scotland that game against England, no doubt about it. He was so poor off the tee. He misses a lot of kicks and makes an awful lot of errors. Handed Italy a try in that game against Italy in the opening round of the Six Nations, flung the ball away very sloppily, made loads of mistakes, and I just think he's a liability. And when you've got quick backs like Australia, like Joseph Suaalii, Len Ikitau, Samu Karevi, Tom Wright, who's been in phenomenal form, Max Jorgensen, and Andrew Kellaway, you can't afford to give the ball away to them because they will punish you for it. Australia have always had great counter-attacking sides, and I feel like having Finn Russell there, when Australia apply the pressure, he will hand them opportunities, and they're great at counter-attacking rugby. So, yeah, he's definitely not making my team. Marcus Smith, though, has not impressed me in Six Nations. A few good moments here and there, some good ball carrying, but sloppy, weak in defence in certain points. Poor off the kick and tee as well. Inconsistent would be what I would say to sort of Marcus Smith. Still a smashing player, but I think after watching that Netflix documentary, all the fame and fortune has gone to his head, and that mad hair of his that he loves flicking around. I tell you, Smith that has really impressed me, and that's Finn Smith. And I'm not going to ruin anything for you, but he has really impressed me. Smashing player. But as I say, don't want to ruin it. Duan van der Merwe is injured, I believe, and also has not really impressed me. he just isn't consistent enough. You need to see more from him. James Lowe, in fairness, has had good moments, but again, inconsistent. And I always have my doubts about James Lowe, and I always feel bad for Jacob Stockdale because it's not as if James Lowe was flawless, but it's made out like he is. And Stockdale copped so much abuse after an absolutely amazing breakthrough season with Ireland. He was amazing. And he was very good against the Stormers, and I wish him well because he's a player I like. I don't like the way he was treated. I feel like it was very harsh and unfair. And also good to see Robert Balakoon back. And Michael Lowry having a smashing game, definitely putting his hand up for selection for Ireland in the future, I would say. Hugh Jones has really disappointed me, I have to say, because I hold him again to such high standards. And even at that, though, he's gotten 4 tries, so like, still quite impressive, you got to say, but not his best. Against Ireland, he was a passenger. Did okay against France, but not amazing. Um, Against England, he was very good. Against Italy, he was excellent. And I don't want to just say it's just Italy, but it is Italy. Like they're always minnows in the team. Against Wales, he was okay against Wales, but again, not outstanding. And I expect so much from Hugh Jones. He's a smashing player. He's really good. Um, so like I hold him to a high standard, just like I do the Irish players, which brings us nicely on to a man who has really not lived up to my massive expectations, and that's Gary Ringrose. Like a brilliant player, such a good player, but made a brain fart against Wales. Really bad red card to get away. Um, I don't know what he was thinking. I feel like it was kind of harsh, but to the letter of the law, maybe it's a red. Yeah, 20-minute red anyway. Could it have been downgraded to a yellow? Who knows? Especially considering that Piano Movaka's intentional headbutt on Ben White was only a yellow at the time. But the sanction will be harsher on it, I think, because he's been cited. I think intent needs to come into it a lot, and Gary Ringrose clearly did not intend to hurt Ben Thomas. But very poor against Italy. Him and Henshaw were caught out so many times. Against Wales, absolute shocker. Like he wasn't doing great before, knocked on the ball near the touchline. Now I know very poor pass from Jamie Osborne, but it wasn't Gary Ringrose's day, and yeah, wasn't outstanding against England. Did a good job, but wasn't outstanding. And I feel like we got beaten through the middle by England far too often. Um, Scotland just didn't show up when they played us, so I'm not really giving us an awful lot of credit for that. But we got a great win against them. Very poor against Wales, very poor against France, and if Dan Shane wasn't on the pitch against Italy, we were losing. Darcy Graham, not impressive enough in the big games. I know he got injured against Ireland, so that's fair enough. So a few injuries here and there. Came back, did well against France, but yeah, you also got to try against Wales, so you know what you're getting with them. But not consistent enough again for me. He's a player who you think, yeah, outstanding, smashing. Didn't do like got into the game against Italy in the second half, but didn't start off very well. You need to see more from him. Him and Duhan were found wanting. I thought in that game against Italy, and then that's Scotland's problem. Like Ireland struggle with consistency, but Scotland are even worse, which is saying something. On their day, brilliant, but they don't have their day often enough. Hugo Keenan, still Mr. Reliable. Still someone who is very good under the high ball, wins the high ball, makes big tackles. He's Mr. Reliable. If you're going between him and Blair Kinghorn, you probably think Kinghorn's the more exciting player, but Hugo Keenan is the one you need. He's more important to a team, I would say. He's as good as having 3 men in the team. He's always reliable. Ireland as a whole didn't function very well, but I feel like Keenan is like having a goalkeeper in football. Like, then he minds the backfield so well, and he's a great defender. So got a try against Italy. Could have had another. Was unlucky they didn't get another one. Didn't play against Wales. Against France, we were just outclassed, and was that really his fault? No, I don't think it was. In fairness to him, we were just out muscled, outgunned, and that's all you can say, really. Outplayed, outscored. Ronan Kelleher, what happened with him? Was he injured? I think he was injured, but yeah, started off very well, I have to say. And then just went off the face of the earth. Dan Sheehan came back into the team, played brilliantly, and Kelleher was out. That was it. Um, if he's fit, I'd definitely have him on the bench, but don't know if he is. I feel like Ireland are leading the way. Hooker is a position that I feel also, apart from fly half, was very poor for the home nations. I don't think there was any great hookers, bar the wonderful Dan Sheehan, our very own Sheeno. He was brilliant. Again, one blip against Wales when he was captain. That's it. You forgive him that. He's only back from injury. Like me with the short hair, the longer hair. I always keep it short, to be fair. Beard looks a bit bushier in that video. That was my first ever proper rugby video, actually. So this is getting nostalgic already, this channel. But yeah, I feel like Luke Cowan-Dickey was average, had some okay games. Um, Jamie George is just Mr. Reliable. You know what you're going to get with him. Good leader, though. Definitely an important man to have with you. Todd Kelleher was very good when he was playing. It's just that after the Scotland game, we didn't see him. I don't know why that is, but Rob Herring was on the bench then. So if Kelleher's injured again, poor fella's not lucky with injury, is he? But he's a very good player, such a good hooker. And in Ireland, we're really blessed to have him, Dan Sheehan, Gus McCarthy coming through. Very lucky to have those three really good hookers. And Rob Herring's been very good. I've been very impressed with him. Mr. Reliable is what I call him as well for Ireland. He is to Ireland what Jamie George is to England, essentially. Not the most exciting, but reliable, dependable, and that's what you need. Pierre Schoolman's disappointed me as well. And also Ellis Genge just stepped up. I feel like he really, in fairness to him, came on. I think, and I gave him praise when I was slating the England team for the real discipline. I feel like Genge's discipline has gotten a lot better. He's not getting involved in shit off the ball. He's scrummaging well. He gave Will Griff John a bit of an earful. He was like, "All right, mate, you're a tight end prop and you don't know how to scrum." The thick Bristol accent. I heard Genge in an interview before and he didn't sound as Bristol. And then more recently, when I was listening to him, it was real. You're not catching them killers, Dad. The off was. It's just the one killer, actually. Um, Sounded a lot more yar. Yeah, weird one. But no, he's playing a lot better. Credit where it's due, his discipline has improved a hell of a lot. Things we like to see. So, no, he's doing very well. And credit where it's due. And this man has done phenomenally well. Will Stewart really improved. I'd say he's probably the most improved front rower I've seen in the last 5 years, maybe. Because I didn't think much of him. I thought he was crap, for being honest with you. Just a big body that doesn't really do an awful lot. But when he played against Leinster for Bath, Andrew Porter was struggling to get a grip of him, really struggling. And then when Thomas Dutoy came on, Andrew Porter dominated him. And I thought, oh shit, Will Stewart did really well against Porter, meaning Thomas Dutoy is much better. He's going to absolutely destroy Andrew Porter. And it didn't happen. So I think I wasn't giving Will Stewart enough credit. Got a try at the end as well against Wales. And look, I know England ran riot, but in fairness to Will Stewart, he has really come on very well. And the England front row really stood up to France. So I got to give them massive credit for that. That's no easy feat. And Genge against Wayne Antonio, geez, that's impressive, you know. And it looked like Genge was getting the better of him on that side, and Will Stewart just holding up Jean Baptiste Gros and really doing a number on him. So I was very impressed. Um, George Martin, extremely disappointed. I've been very disappointed with him. He drops out completely, and he's a player who I thought was coming up and doing very well. He didn't impress me at all. Whereas Maro Itoje stepped up. I wouldn't make him captain now, I have to say. I don't think he's good as a captain. Just think he's too arrogant. Let him have his big ego if he wants, but don't let him bring it in with other players. Jamie George is a much more level-headed guy, as is Caelan Doris. Let those guys kind of do it. I think it's always too much about me, me, me. And while England did have good bottle and good determination, just don't like Itaoji's attitude. Good player, yeah. Obviously gives the lads an extra boost, but I don't think if the game gets niggly, and there's a scrap going on or something, he's not the guy to sort it out. The fella who'd sort out the niggles on the pitch would be Caelan Doris and Jamie George just saying, "Calm down, lads, keep a cool head." I feel like Itaoji just riles people up too much, and that might work for the Lions or against them. You never know. But we'll see. Sorry, no. So then looking at the replacement back row, Rory Darge had a very good game against Italy, made my team of the week, and ever since then, nada, not very good. I feel like Jamie Ritchie, in fairness, has really stepped up and been Scotland's best back rower. Matt Fagerson, bit of a hothead, throws his weight around a little, has a great engine on him, but hasn't been consistent enough either. Jamie Ritchie really impressed, so he could still make the team. It could all change, but unlikely at this point. And I think Andy Farrell is naming his squad very soon if he hasn't already. So looking forward to that. But Rory Darge, yeah, not done enough for me. Ben White, on the other hand, has been outstanding. Three tries, runs a great support line. I wouldn't say he's on the same level as Gibson Park, but he's certainly a good man to have in your team. Just needs to stop yapping at the ref. That's one thing I'll say. I know you're a scrum half, Ben, but stop yapping at the ref. Because very good player, doesn't need to be doing it. You know, Gets that Scottish backline firing. So I think to myself, cut out that shit. You're a good player. Let it go and just get on with the game. Ben White is definitely going to stay in my team. This man, Finn Russell, you can tell I'm not his biggest fan. But I thought, yeah, he'll go on the tour. I still think he will, but I've dropped him out because I think he had a woeful Six Nations, and I don't see why so many people are praising him. I think he's cost Scotland so many games. Um, I just don't think he's as great as everyone makes out. Maybe for Bath, I think he has all the potential. Yes, he's very skillful, a lot of talent, but he's extremely lazy. Relies on the talent, and he might throw five terrible passes that cost his team the game, and then one magical pass or really good crossfield kick to Johan van der Merwe against England. And then we all think he's great, but no, I just don't think as a team player he's great. It's all about him, like what I told you, that those are two players that I think are too arrogant and too about me, me, me. And I feel like Marcus Smith has really gotten like that as well, and I don't like saying it. He looked like more of a team player, but he seems to have just gotten very arrogant. And I hope Finn Smith doesn't get that way. I don't think he will. He seems he's got a good head on his shoulders, but Finn Russell, I don't like his attitude. I don't think he's good for a team. Um, it's all about him. And as I say, if he throws a stupid pass, Australia have the backs to punish the Lions. I wouldn't have him in the team. And that is my thoughts. Blair Kinghorn now, in fairness, very skillful, very quick, inconsistent again, but when he turns it on, he's so talented. Against Wales, he was outstanding. Against France, he was very good as well. Against England, he was very good. Um, Against Italy, he wasn't bad. Not great, like not a world beater, but still quite good. Against Ireland, found wanting, but overall quite good. I think I'd keep him as a utility back because he can play both wing. On both wing, he can play centre, and he can play fly half. Fullback's his best position, I think, and he can kick. So definitely a player worth having in your team, and he can kick from distance. So if you're struggling with them and you're getting a lot of kicks near the halfway line against Leinster for Toulouse, he kicked very well. Certainly a player that I'd have in my team because apart from being an attacking menace, he's extremely good at kicking off the tee from distance. Not necessarily out wide, but definitely a good player to have. So we'll see how the team has changed now. So let's stop the share. Found my old scrum cap. It barely gets around my big fat head now. There we go. Feels very fitting to be wearing this, not fitting on the head, but this is my updated team. I'm actually gonna take that off because it's getting a bit compressed in my skull. Wore that after I got a really bad concussion, so popped it on. Canterbury are a great brand, in fairness. It's a good scrum cap. Yeah, may pop it on again in the future. But yeah, this is my review team. I'm just going to show you now. So here we are. So, kill that screen now just so you can see it while I talk. But yeah, so front row stays the same. Maro Itoje comes into the second row ahead of Joe McCarthy. He's played a lot better than him, so I have to be fair in my decision. Get rid of that yoke down below. All good. So yeah, we'll just go down as I go. Talk you through it. Itoje has been good, and I feel like two live wires like Tyke Byrne and Maro Itoje getting around the field would be very useful to have. At hooker, I've made a change, so the props are the same, but Dan Sheehan comes back in. I was saying he would if he played well. He's played outstanding. 5 tries in 5 games as a front rower. As a front rower, yeah, like I mean that's fucking incredible. I told you, I say I put him in the team, but I wouldn't make him captain. It's just that man does not need any more ego. I don't feel like it would help his game, you know. So I feel like next to Tyke Byrne, that's a good partnership. Two quite mobile second rows getting around, getting jackal turnovers, getting up in the line out, and great engines can last you the 80 minutes if they need to. You know what I mean? Back row now. So that has changed. Caelan Doris keeps his place, but he's lucky to keep his place because I don't feel like it was his best tournament. I feel like he can be a little bit overrated at times. I still think he's a very good player, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like Jack Conan was better. But I feel like Doris is more of a starter. So if you're going to have him in the squad, and I have to have him in the squad, I don't feel like he's great coming off the bench, but starting him is definitely something you want to do. And if he's not doing it, you bring on Jack Conan or Ben Earl, who I have on my bench. Well, I'll show you that now. That Jack Morgan has been brilliant. 88 tackles, like that's phenomenal. You know, that's so good. It's so important for a team to have that. You know, like that's 19 tackles a game, nearly. You know, like well, it's 18 more so, but you know what I mean. He's doing quite well. So for doing our quick maths, if it was 90, right? So then what you would do is I'd like to break it into 45, so half 90, and then that's 9. So then add 9 plus 9, 18. So 18 tackles roughly a game. Um, Very good. Gets jackal turnovers as well. Jack the Jackler. Tackle machine. And against the Aussie backline, we're going to need somebody who can make lots of tackles, and Jack Morgan is that guy. Tom Curry will get you the physical battle, such as jackals. He doesn't have an awful lot of tackles now. England don't have an awful lot of tackles in general. You know, dominant collisions, yeah, but not in general. Loads of tackles. They tended to get beaten through the middle quite a lot, and France ripped them apart, and we certainly showed them a thing or two. We got our bonus point win. So they'd be quite frail in defence, but in the front on collisions, they're quite good. And Tom Curry got a lot of jackal turnovers. People keep saying that he was top of the jackal stats. Jamie Ritchie was actually top, 7 turnovers. The Curry boys both had 6 each. Still pretty good, but we get Jamie Ritchie the credit he deserves. But Tom Curry also scored tries and just being a menace. You know, like they really were the best back row, to be fair. And I saw Tim from Egg Chase was talking about the riches that England have at 7 at open side flanker, which is why they play 3 to start off with. It is incredible. And to think of where they've come from, with no open side flankers, James Haskell and Chris Robshaw, 2 blindside flankers, having a go with open side 6.5s as they call them. They have an embarrassment of riches now, and Henry Pollock looks like a serious talent and a bit of a different player. So I was watching the rugby pod with Andy Gould, Jim Hamilton, and then Rob, don't know his second name. Andrew Porter's little brother. That's what he looks like. But he's a Geordie lad. Um, a Newcastle Falcons fan. And they were just talking about Henry Pollock being a different type of player, which he is. He's more of a ball carrying player, really good playmaker, maybe a possible number eight because of the way he carries the ball. Very confident with the ball in hand, very fast as well. So definitely one for the future. Um, at nine, Gibson Park has to keep his place. He's that good, so he's staying exactly where he is. Yeah, sure, not his best Six Nations, but he's phenomenal. He's such a good player, and in fairness, Ireland didn't give him an awful lot to do. Like they didn't give him a very good platform to use. He makes big tackles. He makes really good runs and follows up. Support lines are excellent. Box kicking is great. So Jamison Gibson Park is outstanding. Not too far behind Antoine Dupont, I might add. Finn Smith showed all the fly halves in the Northern Hemisphere, apart from Tomo Ramos, how it's done. He was brilliant. Great kicks, great tackles as well. Got boshed once, but apart from that, led the way in defence. And while everybody else was being so cocky and all the talk was about Marcus Smith, Finn Russell, Sam Prendergast, Finn Smith showed them how it's done. You know, kicked very well off the kicking tee. Had a great game against France when he was just basically thrown in the deep end. And he swam, he didn't sink. Marcus Smith missed two easy kicks, but Finn Smith stepped up to nail two kicks when he was asked to do so. And then when he was given the kicking responsibilities, he absolutely nailed it. So I think want to chuck Sam Prendergast in and start him a fly half and all this, why not put in Finn Smith? I think he's certainly been better than Marcus Smith and Finn Russell. So there we are. Now we get into the nitty gritty. So Duhan van der Merwe is injured anyway, I believe, and this man here has absolutely lit the place up. Blair Murray, what a player! He's so good to watch, so exciting. I know he played fullback for Wales. Left-footed, carries the ball on the left arm. I think he'd be suited on the left wing perfectly. Great attacking player, great in the air. And then you have Hugo Keenan at fullback. I think they'd be sorted. And then the right wing, Tommy Freeman, you know, who's been outstanding. Great try scorer. Can be maybe a bit of a liability in defence, but I don't know if that's necessarily him or just the fact that he's attacking and then France counter attacked or whatever happened. But five tries in five games shows you how good Dan Sheehan is that he's doing that as well as a hooker. But I think Hugo Keenan is Mr. Reliable under a high ball. You know, he goes about his work quietly, you know, doesn't get the praise he deserves often enough. He's very good, very reliable. Blair Murray, live wire, really exciting talent. I feel like he would give you more than James Lowe, Duhan van der Merwe anyway. I just feel like he's a better player. I think he's so good, and Wales have been very bad. But Blair Murray has beaten tacklers for fun. Jack Morgan has made tackles for fun. So, two great Welsh players. Tommy Freeman's big, physical. You know, like you remember when he boshed Calvin Nash, and I made a video on the Bash Nash. Unfortunately for him, definitely more suited to the right wing than the left wing. Made a video on England playing Ireland last year, and Freeman was on the left wing, but he's much more suited to the right wing. When he scored a try in every game, even when he was played out of position at centre. So no, very good talent, and I feel like that's a good back three to have. Keenan is Mr. Reliable, will do all the hard work, catch the high balls, and can always depend on him. Freeman and Murray can then go forward and attack, but they're also very good under the high ball, very good in attack. So definitely it's a good back three, I feel. I've gone with an all Scottish centre partnership because Tom Jordan, what a player he is. He has been brilliant. So I've gone with a playmaker at 12. And I know people are saying as well, you can kind of get away with a smaller team because you're not playing South Africa. You know, like you would have to go with more bulk because it's South Africa. They're going to beat you up physically if you don't have the size. Australia now have a good bit of physicality, I will say, and they've got a good front row. Angus Bell is such a good player to watch. Like everybody talks about Taniela Tupou, but Angus Bell has outshone him a lot. Rob Valetini leads the way in the physical charge, you know, and then the second rows look quite good for Australia, very impressive. Fraser McWright's really coming to his own, and Harry Wilson. And I got to watch Australia live, as I was saying. which is funny because in the video I shared with you there, that's exactly what I was talking about. Was the Australia game that I got to see live. But the Australian back row looked very impressive, and they were getting turnovers. They were making big carries. Valetini was leading the physicality battle. Where do you put him now at 6 or 8? I know they've been playing him as a six, and then Harry Wilson at 8. But either one, they can chop and change. Fraser McRoy's more now and out 7. Real Aussie 7, isn't he? He looks like one of the scrum cap, the long surfer dude hair. Very good over the ball as well. So they've got good players, and then that back line of Tom Wright, Suaalii, Noah Lolosio playing very well. Also, Max Jorgensen, Lennox, Tau, Andrew Kellaway, like they've got talent. Tom Wright has been brilliant, really good player, very good. Tate McDermott at scrum half, live wire, just takes off with the ball. Ben Donaldson, all exciting players, all really good attackers. So we're gonna have to be on our game. I say we as the Lions, we all come together, the Irish and the British. But yeah, moving to our bench, it's kind of an interesting one. So you got all the flair starting off, so real dynamic hooker and Dan Sheehan. Jamie George is the Mr. Reliable, the boring type of player. But if you look at who I've paired him with, I've gone with an all English front row on the bench because I feel like Genge give you a bit more of that physicality if Porter's tired. And Porter obviously gives you a lot of physicality, but Genge ain't the bad man to bring on. Um, as good as Will Stewart has been, I feel like Xander Fagerson is a starter. I don't feel like you bring him off the bench. Gives you a good shift. And then Will Stewart can give you a really good 30 to 25 minutes, I would say. Um, Big carries, big scrummaging, Genge the same, and I'd be happy enough. Jamie George, doing, Jamie George just doing what Jamie George does, the set piece. And then I've gone with Ollie Chesham as my replacement. You see it there, my replacement lock, second row, because I feel like Ollie Chesham has been very reliable, great engine, lasted 80 minutes against Italy, great line out option, really good in the air. And if, say, for instance, we're not matching Australia's power game or we're getting destroyed in the pack, can always go to the fundamentals of them all, which I feel like Chesham gives you a lot of. Jamie George hitting Ollie Chesham in the line out. But a special mention to Daffyd Jenkins, who has made 78 tackles, so nearly 68, 68, nearly 16 tackles a game, which is incredible for a second rower. But I feel like Ollie Chesham is more of an all-rounded player. You know, he just gives you a bit more in the carry, in the offload, line-out option. So, and he's certainly not afraid of the physical stuff. So that's why I brought him on the team. And then obviously Genge and Stewart, who are an English front row, feel like a bit more bulk coming off the bench. Jamie George, really clever, wise player, good head and the shoulders, and will get that line out working if they need it, and a good scrummaging hooker to have as well. Which I feel like the Lions can rely on if this team ain't cutting it. Then I've gone with a 6-2 split, like I was saying. So Ben Earl and Jack Conan coming off the bench just to fuck shit up, you know. If Doris isn't doing it, then Jack Conan, Ben Earl can come on. Who they come on for in the back row, I don't know, but they'll certainly add a lot. Um, Conan's been brilliant off the bench for Ireland. Only started 2 games, got injured in one, and then against Italy, Ireland just had a shit day at the office, but got the win. Jack Conan's been great, really good player. And Ben Earl, as you say, missed a few tackles, not always being reliable in that area. So I feel like he needs to improve there. But ball carrying, certainly he's got that. And then he can get you jackal turnovers as well. I feel like off the bench, he'll have a point to prove. So he'll really go for it. Him, Jack Cohn, and Ollie Chesham coming on, I feel like they'll have a big impact. Ben White keeps his spot, and so does Blair Kinghorn. I feel like two of these Scotsmen really been good. As I said, Kinghorn can cover so many different positions, so that's why I feel like he needs to go on the bench just in case. So say if Finn Smith gets injured, Kinghorn can cover fly half. Not ideal. He's good enough to do it. Tom Jordan can cover fly half as well. He can kick, so Tom Jordan's another option that can kick off the tee if you need him to. Certainly done everything else very well, so why not? You've got three kicking options essentially. And Tom Jordan, as you say, could go into fly half if needed. You could then put Kinghorn in at centre, or do whatever. Tommy Freeman can play centre. So you got a few options there, and you got to have players who can cover multiple different positions. If you're doing a 6-2 split, even more so if you're doing a 7-1, but I'm not that crazy. We go 6-2. Ben White, great support lines, really gets the back line firing. And I feel like with the two Scottish centres right here, he could really hit them well. Vince Smith's a good distributor, kicks very well, good head and the shoulders as well, clever guy. Gibson Park can get that back line firing, but so can Ben White. So that is my team, my updated team. I don't know your thoughts on that. The reason why I've made the changes is just because I feel like there's a few players who simply were not cutting it. We're not doing well enough. So yeah, they've been dropped essentially. But yeah, as you say, let me know your thoughts, guys. That's just an updated team. Like that's not necessarily who I think will definitely go, but that's who I would pick. And there's a few players there who are lucky that they're still in the team, but they are purely because of experience, because of past form, and also because they weren't necessarily terrible in the Six Nations, but wasn't overly impressed with the home nations, I've got to say. And I think I'm just going to call it now. I think Australia could win this. And if you don't believe me, they've beaten England. They hammered Wales. They narrowly lost to Ireland, who took ages to get going. And we'd no clean line breaks against them, whereas they had a couple against us. They only lost by 3 points in the Aviva. And the only team that convincingly beat them was Scotland, and that was 27-13. So it's not exactly a hammering. And Suoliti got injured earlier in the game. So, and Scotland had a good game. They did really well in that game, but they're not consistent enough. So I think Australia will win this, if I'm being honest. I'm going to call it. I know it's a bold call. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. X12, Robert Piercy, and Shawnee, if you're there. Let me know what you guys think because I feel Australia are peaking at the right time. I feel like they're coming up at just the right time, and I don't see an awful lot that impresses me about the Northern Hemisphere sides. So yeah, I've called it there, but that's the team I feel can beat them. Let me know yours, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Sláinte and slán go fóill.